Good afternoon, teacher. I'm Juan Jose, and as you know, grammar involves a lot of kinds of words, yeah, and a lot of grammar topics or issues. Now, I am going to talk about auxiliary verbs. Well, what is an auxiliary verb? For me, an auxiliary verb is a word that with a simple verb, gives a specific time. Yes, we have a lot of auxiliary verbs, as you know, but in English, well, we use the most common or the basic. Well, I'm going to start with I'm going to write the most common auxiliary verbs. For example, we can start with can, then have, have to, then must, and then we have will, then we have did, then we have should, and then we have would. We have more auxiliary verbs, but these are the most useful. Yes? Okay. The first one is easy to understand. It indicates an ability. An ability to do something. Yes. Okay. Then have to. Have to is it indicates obligation. A very simple obligation about something. Then we have must. Must indicates strong obligation. This is harder than this one. Must. Strong. Strong obligation. Then we have will. Will, that in other ways is out. Will indicates future actions, like for example, it's for instance and decisions. I will go to a park. Yes. Future did. We use this auxiliary verb for sentences in past tense. You know that a sentence in simple past is formed with noun, verb in past, and complement. And then if you want to change that sentence from affirmative to negative or even question, you need did. Yes. Continue with should. Should indicates like a suggestion. Suggestion or possibility to do something. Then we have can, have, must, will, did, should, and would. This is a future possible. Future possible, or even it indicates, oh my god, future possible. Future possible, like for example, I would go to a park, I would go to a gym. So as we have as a summary, we have can, we have had to, must, will, did, should, and would. These are the most common auxiliary verbs, but there is a form for work with sentences, making sentences. Let's write on this part. We have can, we have then we have must, then we have will, did, should, and would. And then there is a general form for working with these auxiliaries. The form is easy to use and easy to understand. For example, let's start with the form. We can start with, first of all, the subject. Could be he, she, it, my father, my mother, whatever. And then this is my subject. Then we have the verb. The verb is in base form if you want to make the sentence in simple present. Then we have complement. As you know or notice, the form is easy. It's like in Spanish, yes. Subject, verb, complement. Subject plus verb plus complement. But when we have an auxiliary, the situation changes a little bit. The changes is not very significant or even complicated. We erase this one, and then we have a subject, then we have auxiliary verb, then we have verb, and then at the end we have the complement. That's my form for make sentences in with auxiliary verb. Subject, auxiliary verb, verb, complement. This is for affirmative statements or even sentences. For negative, just we have this one, our subject doesn't change, plus not, then auxiliary, plus not, plus verb, and plus complement. We have affirmative and negative forms for working with auxiliaries. Then we have the question form. The question form is easy too. We have auxiliary plus subject or pronoun, then the verb that is in base form plus complement, and finally our quotation mark. Yes, I think it's not complicated for us. This is. Well, until this moment we have the three basic forms for working with auxiliary verbs. Affirmative, negative, question, or even interrogative. We have subject, auxiliary, verb, complement. Negative, subject, auxiliary, not, verb, plus complement. Finally, we have auxiliary plus subject plus verb plus complement. To do this one, it's very important to recognize that you need to know verbs like this one. We have a list. This one, wait, come here. We have a list of different verbs. In this case, we have regular verbs. The situation is that we must know the most common verbs. Yes, for working with auxiliaries, we need to know verbs, regular and irregulars too. Regular verbs and irregular verbs too. This is the form, and this is a list of verbs. So we need to use the first one in base form, not in past. In present, base form, this is base present, past, and participle too, because it's regular. So we need to understand that we must learn the most common verbs. Yes, this is a list and this is a list. To do this one, well, to continue with the topic, it's easy to work with the forms. If you know the forms, you can work with auxiliaries. The auxiliary is not a problem. The form is the same. The auxiliary changes. For example, if I want to make a sentence with can, it's easy with a subject. For example, she can play soccer now. She can play soccer. And then for negative, she can't play soccer. This is the contraction. The contraction is using to reduce, to make our English easier to pronounce. She can play soccer, she can't play soccer. Question, for question, just need to change auxiliary at the beginning of the sentence. Yes, she can play soccer. She can't play soccer. Can she play soccer? Yes. And if you want to change the auxiliary, the meaning will be different. For example, she has, or she have, must, she will, she did, she should, she would. The form is the same. The auxiliary changes drastically the meaning of the sentence, but it's very easy. Some students consider these forms are boring or easy, I don't know. And they sometimes say, teacher, I don't like these sentences, or it's too boring. But at the time when they need to draft or even write some short paragraphs, they have problems. Why? Because they don't know how to make sentences. Yes. So there are three tips: forms, auxiliaries, and verbs. Regular and irregular verbs. That's the situation we have. Can, have, must, will, did, should, would. For negative, can, haven't or don't have, mustn't or must not, will not or won't, did not or didn't, should not or shouldn't, would not, wouldn't. The contraction is easier to use. Most people prefer to use contractions just in informal texts or readings. Because in formal documents, you don't need to use contraction. It's not recommended. Well, let's erase the form. I suppose you know the forms. Another example. Well, I'm going to write one big example. We have, I don't know, my mother. Then we have can, has in this way, has. My mother, must, will, did, should, would. This is another way to understand the use of auxiliaries. This is an affirmative. Subject, auxiliary, then verb, and the complement. This one, this one, this one, with this one. As you can see, the form is not complicated. Yes, my mother can, for example, could be run. fast. Yes, my mother can run fast. My mother has to run fast. My mother must run fast. My mother will run fast. My mother did run fast. My mother should run fast. My mother would run fast. Yes, this is the basic form for working with auxiliary verbs. Thank you very much. It's all for today.